Howdy, folks. Justin here. Welcome to episode 3 of From Loser to Legend, helping you go from that guy who is a loser, no game at all, none whatsoever, thought he had game, doesn't have game, to this guy, lots of game. I don't know if you can see it, but he's wearing a medal. He's got sunglasses on, a lot of game. Uh, in this episode, we're going to be talking about card advantage and hopefully talking about reach as well, what these concepts are in Elder Scrolls Legends, as well as in general, and how you can use this information, this knowledge to your advantage when constructing decks and playing games. So, let's get that out of the way. Okay. So basically, at its simplest level, card advantage is the idea that, well, it's a valuable concept because it's based on the idea that the player who has access to the most resources will win. This isn't always true. There are instances where having the right card at the right time is more important than having a diverse number of mediocre cards. However, the chances of you having the correct card are increased the more cards you have. Um, the simplest cards that generate card advantage are cards that replace themselves, right? Like for instance, I have this deck here to illustrate these points. Cards like, where are we at here? Elusive Schemer. Uh, for 4 Magicka, you get a 4 attack creature, and it draws a card and replaces itself. It's got some other text too, but the reason that it generates card advantage is your opponent is more than likely going to have to spend 1 resource, 1 card, removing this, or you're going to be able to attack into one of his creatures with it and trade 1 for 1, and then beyond that exchange, you also have a card that you drew when you played it. Cards that generate card advantage are some of the most valuable cards in the game, and I think that it's safe to say that drawing cards in general is one of the most powerful things you can do in this game. Card advantage can also be generated through things like Ice Wraith. At the start of your turn, you put an Ice Spike into your hand. Cards like Ice Storm, a little less intuitively, you play 1 resource, Ice Storm, remove even just 2 of your opponent's resources, 2 creatures, and you've generated card advantage. And things like Shocking Wamasu, which come into play, kill a creature of your opponent's, and then later on attack into another one of your opponent's creatures, generating a 2 for 1 trade. That's what that expression means when you hear people talk about it. Just to try to generate some card advantage, we're going to hop onto a game in practice mode against the AI with this mono blue deck. Do it on novice so we can just take some time and illustrate these points. See what we got here. By the way, to everybody who commented on my last video about that chair that I was talking about, this really ubiquitous, weird looking chair that I see all sorts of YouTubers and streamers have. Thank you very much for all the information. I had no idea what I was getting into. We have 2 cards here that generate card advantage. Telvanni Arcanist. It's a creature. It's got 3 attack, 2 toughness for 3. It's a fine rate. When it dies, that's what Last Gasp means in Elder Scrolls Legends. When it dies, you get to put a random spell and action card into your hand, so you're getting a 2 for 1. And Crown Quartermaster is similar, except when it comes into play, when you summon it, you get a dagger card into your hand. We have the Magic Elixir, so we'll keep all 3 of these since we can go turn 1 and then turn 2. Okay, well, unfortunately, this does not stack up well against that. Dumber Nightblade, another example of card advantage. It's a 2/1 for 2. When it dies, you get a steel sword. The idea behind running all these sorts of cards is that over time, even ignoring your runes being broken because you're taking damage and drawing cards that way, over time you're just going to end up with more things than your opponent. So we're going to play the Crown Quartermaster into the Shadow Lane, since we don't want to just eaten by that. And well, it looks like he has 2/1/3s, but that was our plan anyway. And Dwarven Spider. This is a man after my own heart. So we're actually going to get to see this principle in play here. Um, because we're going to generate card advantage by trading our creatures into multiple creatures of our opponents, which is another way you can generate card advantage without cards specifically designed to do that, by making favorable trades. So we'll just remove that. And yeah, we'll go ahead and play the Camlorn Sentinel. Somerset Shield Mage. Feel like they probably should have played that in the other lane, but this is the practice level AI. So, and we're going to generate even more card advantage now by removing both of these creatures while keeping both of our creatures alive. And we're going to go ahead and play Ice Wraith to keep this value train rolling. You can see we're accumulating more cards than our opponent has very rapidly here. We're going to draw 2 cards this turn, one from the Ice Wraith, one for our turn, Elusive Schemer, another card drawing card. We'll play the Schemer to draw a card. We get a Dumber Nightblade. And then a very weak form of card advantage, we're going to give it Ward. Not pure card advantage, but again, the same principle here. Now my opponent's going to have to do 2 things to remove it, and we drew a card to begin with by playing it. Brutal Ashlander, another card that generates card advantage by trading into a 1 toughness creature, dies, last gasp, 3 damage to a random enemy. I don't really like random cards or random effects, but you can see how that works. So now I'm going to Firebolt that, attack into that, play the Brutal Ashlander, play the Dunmer Nightblade, play the other Dunmer Nightblade. Whatever dies over here, I'm happy with. Not break my opponent's rune, because drawing of cards for my opponent is a way that they could get back into this game. And you can see I am just getting all sorts of cards here. Got a ton of Ice Spikes. Elusive Schemer just generating more value for us. Lightning Bolt. So we will do that. Card advantage, got a Crushing Blow here. We'll Lightning Bolt it. And we'll pass the turn. And now, just by playing cards that generate this sort of value, you can see how we have completely taken over this game. We have so many Ice Spikes. We play one, immediately hit a Prophecy from our opponent. That's, of course, the risk. One of the risks you take when you play Elder Scrolls Legends. Portcullis in each lane, not a problem. We're just going to keep cycling. And we will remove this. And let's drop another creature down over here, so that we can do 6 damage to that next turn. Auroran Sentry. Now this is kind of the opposite of card advantage. This is a creature that you expect to die, and your hope is that you can generate resource advantage, a tempo advantage by something like this. You gain a bunch of life. It's the opposite of card advantage. Unfortunately for our opponent, we have no problem with him going up to 30 life, because we are driving the value train right now. Remove that. Remove that. Play a Brutal Ashlander. There we go. And you can see this, this Ice Wraith in particular has just generated so much value for us. Another Portcullis from our opponent. 4, 5, 6. And this game is basically over now. This is just a way to illustrate, the escalating power of cards that generate value like this. This is another example, Divine Conviction and Divine Fervor, the upgraded version of it that gives creatures +1/+1. is an example of a value card quality where you're increasing the resources you already have, but it's in a sense these are more dangerous, risky cards to play because they don't do anything on their own. This is my problem with cards like Mundastone. That in all other things being equal, like I would rather play a 4 drop that could win the game on its own. Mundastone is incapable of winning the game on its own, and it can theoretically again generate value, but you're rolling the dice, and it only works in conjunction with other cards. Dumber Nightblade is going to be able to attack and do things no matter what you do. Um, Mundastone, the same is not true for Mundastone. So we got a prophecy. I'm not attacking in any particular order with these, so don't think that I'm being bright or clever with all that. Okay, we got Soul Split here, which is another way to do some fancy things. Triggering the last gasp ability after we've already attacked. And, yeah. I've been watching Westworld tonight. Like, oh my god, that show is amazing. Okay, with 4 ice spikes in hand, we're going to draw another 2 ice spikes. Like, our opponent's not coming back from this. Now, the other concept I wanted to talk about today is what we will get into after this game, and that concept is reach. Reach is another kind of phrase you probably hear thrown around by people who are playing games, who have played games in the past. But unlike unlike concepts like card quality or card advantage, which you can put in poker terms, which is the game I was most familiar with when I started playing collectible card games like Elder Scrolls Legends. You can tell somebody, hey, if you're playing Texas and if everybody at the table is playing Texas, but you're dealt an Omaha hand, but you're allowed to keep playing with that Omaha hand, you can see that you have a clear advantage from card advantage. You have a card, and as a result of the card advantage you have been given, you have a card quality advantage as well because you have more options. To discuss Reach, I'm going to play the Battle Facts of Life deck. This was every season I try to come up with a new deck, and then I play my old decks too, like Scout. I keep coming back to Scout, but last season the deck that received them, I put it up at the end of the first season. What deck do you guys want me to play? The deck that got the most responses was Battle Mage. So I built a Battle Mage deck during Season 2 and played it. That is this deck. I have not changed the list since then. Murkwater Witch, obviously amazing against what we're doing here. So the concept we're talking about here is called Reach. It's most relevant when you're playing decks like this, very aggressive decks who are going to get outclassed by your opponent's cards as the game goes on. But the reason then that Reach is valuable is because when my creatures no longer stack up against his, because mine are all 1, 2, or 3 drops, and his get bigger as the game goes on, you turn to cards that can bypass the usual order of operations for the game. Play a creature, wait a turn, attack. To that end, you play cards like Lightning Bolt, you play cards with Charge. Charge lets you attack with a creature right away. Lightning Bolt can do damage directly to the opponent. These generate what is called Reach, the ability to reach past a board state, or the way things are right now that is just not working out in your favor anymore. This deck, one of the ways that it generates Reach is by having a whole host of weapons and then a handful of creatures with Charge, the ability to attack right when you play them, that you can slap them onto. And we'll get a Steel Sword from the Dumber Nightblade. We will get a little bit of functional Reach from the Fiery Imp, because even if he plays a guard, we can attack into it and do 2 damage to our opponent. And here we go. You can see exactly what I'm talking about with the Lightning Bolt. Let's say when we attack with this guy, he hits a Prophecy. a guard creature that we just can't get through. We don't have to worry about that because we can just reach over the board, if you want to look at it like that, and do the damage directly to the opponent. It's not a bad idea to be running some cards with reach potential in all decks, because there's going to be cases, even in your best matchups, where you just get unlucky, or your opponent is about to mount a comeback, and you need to close this game out before like their Moonlight Werebat or their Drain creature that gains them life takes control of the game. To that end, we'll take a look at a couple cards that give functional reach in each color that you may want to include. We'll start with the colorless one that I like the most, and that card is Crushing Blow. 3 magicka, 3 damage to anything. I can't tell you how many games. I probably won more games with Crushing Blow than any other individual card. Um, I would. This doesn't fit in every deck, but it fits in almost every deck. 3 toughness is also a really important number that you want to be able to remove things like 5th Legion Trainer and Moonlight Werebat, just to name a couple. Other examples of reach, there's a ton of cards that offer this sort of thing in red. Like I mentioned, Fiery Imp still gets in 2 damage if you attack into a guard with it. Nord Firebrand has charge, can attack the turn it's played. All the charge creatures are great like this. Improvised Weapon it gives breakthrough, which means that if you're attacking, let's say my opponent has a 4 toughness, 4 health guard, and I attack into it with a 9/9, ordinarily, that extra 5 damage doesn't matter. Like, none of that damage went to my opponent. If my 9/9 had breakthrough, however, it would only have to do enough damage to the opposing creature, 4 in this case, to kill that creature. The other 5 damage would break through onto the opponent. And so, you can see all the charge creatures here in red are really the best examples of reach in this color. Markarth Bannerman generates both card advantage in terms of putting Nord Firebrands into your hand, and those cards have charge. Battle Rage Orc, Raiding Party, Sylvanar Tracker, which I think is a kind of an underplayed card, all charge. And that is primarily how red generates reach. Yep. Blue, as far as blue reach goes, you have a lot of direct damage spells. That is cards like Lightning Bolt. You have Ice Spike, does damage directly to the opponent. It doesn't matter what's going on the board. No charge creatures in this color, but you're looking pretty much just at Lightning Bolt, Ice Wraith, Ice Spike, and Supreme Atromancer can generate some reach. If your opponent has a ton of guards, you can drop this down, do 4 damage to your opponent. And Devaith Fear, who I think is kind of a terrible card, but can offer some reach too if you get lucky. Yellow and purple are the colors with the least reach options. You're basically only going to have to worry about Crushing Blow when you're facing against a Spell Sword deck, as far as ways that your opponent can kill you this turn if you have a empty board. But they don't really offer any sort of reach in that way. The thing you need to look out for, which has some functional similarities to reach, is the removal spells and the silence effects in these colors. Piercing, if you have a guard creature thinking, oh, well, my opponent isn't going to be able to attack me because I got a guard creature, they're going to be able to reach across the table and throttle you because they cast Piercing Javelin on your creature, but that's not exactly the same concept. Green has a whole lot of options like this. Shadow Shift offers functional reach as well as the other lane shifting cards in the same way that the yellow and purple removal and silence effects do. Removing it from that position, the creature that's being opposed by a guard, and into the other lane. Dune Stalker, another example of that. But most of the reach you get from green comes from charged creatures. There are 3 or 4 of them. Greenheart Knight, Giant Bat. And there are 2 cards that do drain life effects in these colors. Thievery, which just deals 3 to your opponent and you gain 3 life. And Ransack, which there's a couple more charge creatures. Torval Crook, Cliff Racer. The other charge creatures, and Ransack. I think actually my picture is covering Ransack up. Ransack is a 6 Magicka card. Prophecy, deal 3 damage to anything, gain 3 life. That's the other reach card you neither really need to worry about that isn't Tazcad. Or I guess theoretically Nest of Vipers. And I have killed someone who was at 4 with a Nest of Vipers before. Purple again is one reach card I forgot to mention that should be in every green deck. House Kinsman. When this dies, your opponent loses 3 life. Purple is like yellow in that it doesn't have a whole lot of ways to just reach over the table and kill you. It does have a lot of removal and silence effects like Mummify, like Cursed Spectre. But for the most part, this color, you're not worried about dying this turn unless it's a Crushing Blow. Yeah. The exception, of course, is Blood Magic Lord, who between Raise Dead, one of the spells he can generate, and Drain Life, literally this is the name of the spell, can offer some reach, although it's, a dice roll sort of situation. That's basically it for this video. Just to recap, we talked about card advantage and about reach, concepts that really are integral to how these sorts of games work, and understanding why it's important to draw cards. And I would argue a more reasonable approach to the game than to hope to get lucky and curve out with a deck that offers no card advantage, but really high card quality, is a safer way to go. Yeah. So that's it. I hope the season's been going well for everybody. I will see you all on the ladder. Thanks again for all the information about the chair, and join me next week when we have our 4th episode of From Loser to Legend. Got something pretty special planned, so I hope you all join me then. Have a good one, guys. Bye.